Hey gang, it's me, your old Uncle Todd here with another crazy film to look at. Oh, Sunny, she's mad at me. I caught her outside trying to eat the neighbor's dog's brain, and she knows she's not supposed to do that, and well, anyway, she's sulking. But other than that, everything is fine between us. Anyway, tonight we're looking at a film called The Dragon Lives Again, part of the Bruceploitation phase that came about after his untimely death. In this, Bruce Lee ends up in Purgatory. Yeah, I know the actor doesn't really resemble Bruce Lee, but they have a clever, and I do mean clever, way of explaining that.
Hey, are you sure it's Bruce Lee? Doesn't look like him. It so happens when a person dies, their face and their body undergo a change.
Isn't that convenient? Oh, and that is not what you think it is poking up from the sheet. It is, in fact, well, I'll just show you. Everybody keep their nunchucks there? Anyway, after Bruce wakes up, he's explained everything to him by the king of the underworld, who can send him down to hell if he so chooses. With that in mind, Bruce heads on into downtown Purgatory, where at a noodle house, we're introduced to a couple of very familiar looking people.
Hey, I went that there. That's 4 times now. Popeye, you lose a game. Come on now, you have to drink it all up. You know, partner of mine.
Hey, question. You're up to your cheating tricks again, aren't you?
Yes, that was Popeye the Sailor and Kwai Chang Caine from the 70s TV show Kung Fu. More or less. At this point, we actually get into a plot where Bruce learns that there is a triad that is trying to take over Purgatory. It's led by the Godfather, who dresses like a famous singer of the time. And it's also Zatachi, the Japanese blind fighter. James Bond, the man with no name. Dracula, the softcore actress Emmanuelle, and a guy dressed like a priest called the Exorcist. Now, having become aware of Bruce Lee being in Purgatory, this of course leads to a fight with some of Dracula's zombies? Although Bruce seems to be winning the fight at the beginning, eventually he gets weaker and passes out. He wakes up in the care of the mystical Watu, who explains to him that it is his womanizing in his earthly form that has led to his weakness in Purgatory. So, in order to keep his strength up, he must swear off women. In Purgatory, you're drawn to that which condemned you to begin with. He also learns that the Triad's big plan is to oust the current king of the underworld and install Exorcist in his place. Well, Bruce is not going to stand for that. He starts out by first breaking up the gambling dens that proliferate in the town. Then he starts teaching everybody Kung Fu. Well, with no money coming in, the Triad's a little ticked off, so Zatachi is sent to take care of Bruce, and they get into a fight in which all their moves reference their own films.
Here's the dragon. Climb and strike by. Climb and strike strong. Mr. Fury.
Bruce ultimately wins the fight, and as he's defeated, Satoshi leaves the area never to return. With this failure, Emmanuel is sent to seduce him, but because of Bruce's vow of celibacy, that fails too. So the Godfather, decides to cut a deal.
Let me speak frankly. If you throw in your cards with us, you will be much better off.
Nonsense. Look, I don't need you guys at all. You see, I'm wasting my time. I'm gonna be going.
Don't move.
Huh?
In a subplot that adds nothing to the film, the King of the Underworld's concubines decide to try and seduce Bruce, which, again, fails. Meanwhile, Exorcist has decided Emmanuel is the best person to take care of the King of the Underworld, so she's introduced to him, and she plans on killing him with sex. Meanwhile, Bruce, who's tired of being dressed like he was in the Chinese Connection, decides to dress like Kato from the Green Hornet and take on Dracula and his zombies. Not sure where that third leg came from. And who knew vampires could be killed with just a strike to the forehead? Oh, I knew Sunny would come back. She's a sucker for Bruceploitation. Anyway, Bruce then heads back to the palace where he saves King of the Underworld from Emmanuel, who just about killed him. Bruce becomes head of the guard, and he quickly heads out and takes care of James Bond.
Well, I reckon you got stolen money.
The man with no name then hunts down Bruce because he wants to get revenge for the killing of his friend. With the man with no name now taken out, Exorcist and the Godfather, decide to handle things themselves and go to kill the King of the Underworld. But the wily old king, he has a trick up his sleeve.
Don't come a step nearer, or I will shake the pillar.
Don't fool around, visitors. You wouldn't try anything so stupid.
Huh? You don't believe me? All right then, I'll show you.
It's Taz again. He's hunting moths in the office here. An unfortunate side effect of shaking the pillar, which causes an earthquake, is that although it did scare off Exorcist and Elvis, the Godfather, it also destroyed the town and killed some of the souls that were there. I'm not sure. But this really ticks off Bruce, who, first things first, has to take care of the Exorcist and the Godfather.
Fingers of fury!
Well, with that out of the way, Bruce then changes back from his Fists of Fury look to his Return of the Dragon look and goes to look for the King of the Underworld. King of the Underworld, being very scared, abdicates his throne to a character we haven't even been introduced to until this point, Zhang Kui, who apparently was on vacation. Well, with being abdicated to him, Zhang Kui, then brings up his mummies to take on Bruce. Though he puts up a valiant fight, it is obvious Bruce is outnumbered in regards to the mummies. But to the rescue comes Popeye, Kwai Chang Caine, and the one-armed swordsman who Bruce had saved from the gambling house earlier in the picture. And he comes here to redeem himself. Even with their help, they're still outnumbered. That is until yeah, I can't show the rest of the fight because they played the Popeye song. But the Mummies are defeated, and then Bruce faces off against Zhang Kui. Well, with no other alternative, the King of the Underworld concedes his throne to Bruce. Bruce ain't having that. He wants to go back to Earth. King of the Underworld agrees, but before he leaves, Bruce leaves Popeye, Kwai Chang Caine, and the one-armed swordsman in charge to make sure that the King of the Underworld doesn't make any more trouble. And then, well, you'll just have to see for yourself how he gets back to Earth.
Ready?
If you see the little tail there, Daz is still looking for the moth. He's a very diligent hunter. Well, that was The Dragon Lives Again. Probably the craziest kung fu movie ever made, in or out of Bruceploitation. We had more pop culture references and character crossover than I think any film ever put on. It puts the Avengers series to shame, really. I mean, the Universal Monster rallies, the Santo Lucadori films, none of them had this many characters popping up. Bruce Leon, who, not his real name, was one of many actors who came to prominence during the Bruceploitation era. Many of them changed her name to Bruce and had a last name like Lee or Lai or Lay to kind of cash in on the Bruce Lee cachet, as it were. A lot of great fights in this, as I demonstrated. There was also a lot of nudity, which is why you didn't see any of the footage from the concubines or Emmanuel, because I don't think they did any scenes where they had clothes on. So that might be something you want to look into somewhere else, because I'm not recommending you do that, of course. I'm not that kind of guy. But yeah, I like this film just for its out and out bizarreness. They've died, they're in purgatory, and yet they're getting killed. That's one to wrap your head around. How are they dying? But they're dying. And I love all the characters that pop up in here. James Bond, Dracula, the man with no name. It just goes on and on. Popeye. Even included him eating spinach. I mean, this is just a crazy film. Well, that's all we got for tonight. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. You know, get that out of the way there. And, oh, don't forget to stay after the credits for my favorite scene. It's a gut buster.
Oh, I see now. I told her to slow down, but she went faster. That's it. Her pussy's in this plot too. She was using it to murder me.